Hi, I'm Alexander Major. Currently, I work for Lehman College as a professor in the graduate leadership program, helping young people move forward with their careers. On my working days, I was executive director of surgery, worked in surgery for over 40 years. My entire career was spent in the field of surgical operations.
You grew up in Bed-Stuy?
Bed-Stuy and Queens, two places where, as a younger kid, Bed-Stuy, and then as about 9 or 10 years old, moved to Jamaica, Queens, in the vicinity of JFK Airport, in a black neighborhood with a lot of other people who were veterans who were able to get the VA loan for housing. And my father was one of those people who were able, and that's the only way he could afford to get a house at that time. But it was a small neighborhood in South Jamaica, predominantly black, and all of us kind of the same age kids. And we all kind of grew up together to teenage years. Most of us went to different high schools. I went to John Brown High School in Flushing, and most of my other people in the neighborhood, the kids my age, went to John Adams High School, which is a little different section of Queens. What appalled me the most was that I was part, I don't know how they selected us, I was a part of the desegregation group. What that meant was the black kids from South Jamaica, Queens, were bused to Flushing, Queens, near where today's City Field is located, or where the World's Fair was in '64. There was about 50 of us that were bused under the Desegregation Act. It wasn't presented to us as desegregation, it was presented as a better education.
So it was a white school you
With
were.
the white school. A white school that did not want us there in the first place. The school didn't want us. John Brown High School was a relatively new high school. So when I got there in '66, there were only the 8th and 9th grade. And there were no 10th grade yet because it was a new experiment. The issues that came about were, it's a Flushing white neighborhood that did not want black students there. The school did not want black students, and the neighborhood did not want black students, and they let it be known. So my first encounter outside of my own community was not a pleasant one. And so life began to boil over into more militancies, where I became extremely more militant because of my everyday environment of survival.
And was there militant opposition to you kids being there?
Yeah, they protested. The white neighborhoods protested. The school in itself did nothing to advantage the black students. What happened was we were bused from Jamaica, Queens to Flushing, Queens on a yellow school bus. We used to call that the retard bus. And so all the black kids were ushered on these yellow school buses. Where I found the issue with it, which was got me in trouble later on, was all the white students, no matter where they were from, were given a bus pass where they could take the city buses to school. And we felt, the black students felt, we should be given the same instead of having to be forced to take these yellow school buses that stigmatized us.
That's why you called them the retard bus.
The retard bus is what we called them, and because that's what it made us feel like. Probably an inappropriate word, but that's the way we felt as 15, 16-year-olds. And we began to protest that difference, and we wanted the same things that the white students were given. All we wanted was bus passes like them, so I could go to school without being stigmatized. Everybody knew why the black kids were on that yellow bus.
Well, you wore your own stigma on your face
Yeah,
anyway,
absolutely.
without the bus. And Was that about the same time as the desegregation difficulties were going on in Alabama and,
Absolutely.
okay,
This was 1966.
okay,
So it was at the height of the civil rights movement. It was at the height of segregation in the South and the blind segregation in the North. So it was at the height of the racial issues. And so going to high school at that time was not very pleasant. It was not fun. And the black kids were made to sit, some teachers made us sit in the front of the room so they could mark us. And some teachers made us sit in the back of the room because they didn't feel we were capable of learning. What began to happen is I just became more militant. I had already been following people like Malcolm X, and Malcolm X gave us explanations on why these things were happening. I found Malcolm X to be more interesting to me because he spoke more to my issues than Dr. King. We felt turning the other cheek and things of that nature were not apropos for where we live at. And they didn't address the issues we were having. So we were willing to take a more vocal and violent route. My lessons and teachings of Dr. King came later. But at that moment in 66, 67, I was a staunch follower of Malcolm X. Also at that time, in my fight with the white students, being threatened constantly, and the administration not doing anything to help, and seeming to just turn the other eye on what was going on, we began to decide to protest. Because protesting back then was the vehicle for change that we knew of, and it seemed to work. So what we wound up doing was we began to protest to be able to get bus passes, to not have to take that yellow bus every day. Because that yellow bus picked us up in our neighborhoods. It picked us up at the same bus stop that other people got to go to work. So we were so visible to everybody. And so that just continually played on us. And then we began to protest. So one day after school, we decided to block the city bus when it came, and all the white students get on the city bus with their bus passes. We stood out on Main Street, the main thoroughfare, and protested and blocked the buses. Nobody's leaving until we get bus passes like everybody else. So a lot of us got arrested, temporarily arrested. But what it did for me, it just opened the door to a more, as a violent approach. Maybe violent may not be the right word, but more vocal and more expressive in my feelings. And I wasn't very appropriate with English language either. My sister said my bigger problem was I got a big mouth, and I was inappropriate on how I approach people. So I got a meeting with the principal because I refused to go to class because I felt it was just degrading. And I was falling behind. I was a poor student anyway. And what began to happen was while I was meeting with the president, he kind of approached me as if I didn't matter. I did not matter. And I just did as I always did. As a teenager, I told him what I thought of him. I called him names, redneck peckerwood, and racist, and that promptly got me kicked out of high school. They didn't kick me out per se because of the problem. They kicked me out stating that I was antisocial and a danger to other students. My parents never went past the 8th grade. They had no understanding what was going on, and so they were no help to me. My sister was 10 years older. She understood, and she became my biggest advocate. And thank God for her. Rest in peace. But the thing was, I got kicked out of school, and I got sent to, my sister found a program in the Urban League. It was called the Street Academy program, which is the prelude to charter schools back in 1969, 70. And in that program, it was for troubled students. is the title under it. It was blacks and Hispanics, mainly all blacks, that had problems and had gotten kicked out of high school. So we went to storefront classrooms, but what I saw there was all of the teachers were black, and all of the teachers were college educated. And for me, it was the first time I had ever been around educated black people. My neighborhood, nobody went to college. Maybe one person out of a whole neighborhood. So for the first time, I was around blacks that were educated. And as an 18-year-old, it was impressive because they seemed to know how to tell people to kiss their behind in a polite way. And that's...
So, but you said that the high school you were in only went to 9th grade.
Mhm.
So, but then, were you in this urban league school for then 10th, 11th, and 12th?
I was there for 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
Basically the 11th, 12th grade.
so what happened for 10th grade?
10th grade, I was back and forth. I basically was in school, getting kicked out of school, and then trying to get into the urban league school. But the urban league school officially did not have 11th, 12th grade. It wasn't structured like that. Everybody was basically of high school age, is how they... And then you had to take a test when you finish, which
Like a
was
GED.
GED, and you get a high school diploma. And so that's how it was. So it's kind of vague when you say 11th, 12th grade. So I basically finished the 9th grade, get funneled around in what's called the 10th grade, and then the 11th, 12th grade was in the Street Academy program, which I graduated from there with a diploma.
How many kids do you think went through that program, or were
I would say over a couple of hundred, because you go to the Street Academy program first, then you graduate from there and you go to Harlem Preparatory School. There were 2 of them, Harlem Prep and Newark Prep. They were more of the traditional high school, but again, they were all black, and they were for black children that had trouble. So they were more closer to the traditional high school structure. But you had to go through the Street Academy in order to get to Harlem Prep, because they were a higher level education. So...
And who organized the Street Academy?
Urban League.
But so that was...
It was an Urban League program, social program.
And so the Urban League, well, I don't know anything about the Urban League really, but it's not... I think it's not an African American program,
No.
right? It's a New York City Urban League.
New York City Urban League.
Okay.
It's a non-profit organization that help people with social needs, basically. It's almost like social services.
Okay, and then some black folks got together and said, we need these schools for these kids?
Yes.
Okay.
And you had black educators, some of them were PhD doctors who came from Harlem, Bedford-Stuyvesant. They grew up in poor neighborhoods, made it out, got a good education, but realized and understood how many are being left behind.
Well, and you had told me once about what you were told when you were in high school, what you could aspire to. Can you tell me that story?
The counselors, which is nothing that I would never amount to anything. That was the bottom line.
And did you tell me that you could aspire to being a janitor?
That's about what I was told I could be. A janitor or somebody washing windows. I was basically they were trying to gear me to having no self-esteem whatsoever and guiding me to a career that had no purpose whatsoever. But that was normal.
And that's what they told you, those kinds of jobs, that's
Yes.
what they said.
That was very common for all black students, not just me. It was felt by the counselors that this is where your life needs to be.
Do you think that would have been the same at the black high school? Would they have been told the same thing there?
No, I don't think so. Because when I got to Harlem Prep, by the time I got to Harlem Prep in my last year, everything was geared toward college. Everything was geared toward college, encouragement. You are somebody. You will be somebody. And don't you let nobody tell you you won't be nobody. That was the model. That what was growing for about 2.5 years. That's what I started hearing. And it was at that point when education became important to me. But up until then, when you're told you're not gonna be nothing, and then everybody around you is nothing. Everybody I grew up with was hustlers, pimps, prostitutes. Everybody drove Eldorados, wore fancy sharkskin suits, but nobody had an education. And when you grow up around that type of stuff, you see no value in it. When I was 16, I wanted to be a pimp. I wanted to be a pimp, and I'll tell you why. I used to go down to Times Square, sometimes on Friday night, Saturday night. The best and most impressive people I saw there was pimps. Big fur coats, big wide brim hats, $200 shoes on, driving an Eldorado Cadillac. That's my model. That's what I want to be. Because that's the image I can identify with. So I don't know about going to no college, going to no, that's not in my program. This is what I can see. And this is what a possibility looks like. That's what I want. I used to go down there 2-3 times a month just to watch them, to learn the body movements, how they talk to people, because they were the coolest things on earth. There was a book written by a pimp, a reformed pimp, called Iceberg Slim was his name. He was a pimp for years, and a very successful pimp. He got out of the business and wrote a book, and the name of the book was The Pimp by Iceberg Slim. I read that book about 5 times because this is what I want to be, because this is respect. This is people looking up to you. This is being somebody, and that's where I want it to be. And I saved my money to buy that book, and I kept it for years. But as I grew older and I went through the Street Academy program, education became important.
Well, it must have been kind of mind-blowing, the switch, the intellectual transformation going off to the Street Academy and then Harlem Prep.
Right. It's just that you become aware. And I think awareness is more the transition, because I'm no longer being told that I can't. I'm being told I can. Because deep down, I always believed that I'm somebody.
Where do you think you got that?
I think that just was there already.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly believe it's always been there. But when it gets pushed down, when you're here 23 hours a day, it has no surface point. Because there is nothing in your life relevant to justify it. So you never even think about it. But when it becomes mentioned to you consistently, then it rises. And then watch out. Because you've had the opportunity to be on the other side of being told you're nothing. And then you find out, no, I may be nothing in your eyes, but I'll watch out if I were you. Don't get in my way. So you begin to change mentally. My belief began to a little sympathy, because I began to understand it's not my problem. You're afraid of me being successful. So it behooves you to demean me. And that's how things were couched. You're afraid of me. We play basketball better, we dance better, we got rhythm. You're afraid of me. That's why you treat me the way you do. So that's how it came in such a way. So all of a sudden, oh, okay.
And then, so at the Harlem Prep and the Street Academy, all these kids who probably felt the same way you did.
Mhm.
You're all having this shifting mentality.
Absolutely. Some of the people there, some of the ladies and young kids, they still strung out on drugs. They still drinking. So there's a lot of them, even though they there, didn't make it. They might have finished all in prep, but life still sucked. But most of us had the opportunity to see there's more out here. There's a lot more out here, and there's a long way to go, and you accept that. And so for me, I always played basketball. So it was the outlet a lot of the time. And so when I was at the Harlem Prep, what I did was, I was still playing basketball every weekend. We used to play at a park up in Manhattan called Rucker Park. It's called Rucker Pro Tournament, where you have pro athletes will come on Sundays and they will play at this Rucker Park. On Sunday afternoon, you would have thousands of people would show up just to watch these athletes play. But in the morning, you would have the Rucker kids. That's when we would play, the younger kids. In the afternoon, you would have Rucker College. Those are all the guys who are in college. These are all blacks. That they go to college and they're playing basketball, NCAA. Rucker Pro was in the late afternoon. Those were the black guys playing in the NBA or the ABA. So you would stay there all day. And so basketball became very important. And that what led to the next phase for me. Because one Sunday morning we were playing, and I'm at Harlem Prep, and life is getting better. My mother had me living with my sister because my mother and them didn't know what to do with me. Reason is, all of my other brothers were into numbers, hustling, gambling. My parents knew how to deal with that. I was anti-American. I was anti this and that. I was studying the Holy Quran. I was talking about Islam because Malcolm X was a Muslim. Muhammad Ali was a Muslim. They didn't know how to handle me because they weren't knowledgeable enough. What is wrong with him? Why does he dislike America so much when we have it so good?
So
With an 8th grade education, things look good to them. Why is he so anti everything? But my sister understood. She was only, 10 years older than me. So she was more of the generation. But my parents, I don't know what to do now.
But so why did you say they knew how to deal with your siblings, your brothers, right, who were into numbers and I forget all the things that you said they were doing on the street. Why was that more comfortable to them?
Because it was common. Every family almost has somebody hustling, playing numbers, gambling, on drugs, drinking. That was a common family phenomenon in
your
the black
neighborhood.
community.
Do you think the entire, all over the black community in New York or your particular neighborhood?
It's all over the United States. I can walk in any black neighborhood in America and I can tell you what's going on in that neighborhood. Drinking, drugs, prostitution, gambling, numbers.
Why do you think that is?
Because that's where the money is. And that's where the suffering gets taken care of. The addiction, the drugs, the number running. Those are common poor people avenues.
Coping mechanisms.
Yeah. What makes Brooklyn any different from Los Angeles? Poor in Brooklyn is poor in Los Angeles.
But your parents, was your father in World War II?
Yeah.
Is that, well, that's
It was not a good experience for him.
Yeah, I would love to hear more about his experience in World War II if you want to take. But let's take that up in a bit. But, but because he was able to buy a house, that put him in the middle class, right?
No,
Not really.
not
Okay.
really. They put him in the middle of nothing, middle of another headache. But the bottom line was the only reason that was given was because he was a veteran. It wasn't of his resources. It was a government handout, which was, I'm not knocking it. But the reality of it is it was a government handout for veterans because they were trying to build the veterans to help them after the war. And that was the purpose behind it. And he happened to be a disabled veteran because he had got wounded during the war, where he had a metal plate in his head. So the disability gave him even a higher level than a regular veteran. So, but having a house is, it's not the worst thing. But that's how he got that. And then he struggled to even keep it.
What did he do? What was his job?
Construction. And he ran a jackhammer. And that was that kind of work. And it's seasonal, very seasonal. So he was barely working all the time. And then he had to borrow money from his sister a lot of the time. She was a health home aide or whatever Bernice did. But he would always have to borrow money. So even if you had a house, it was a struggle. And then I had to go to work to help.
At what age did you go to work?
I always had a job.
Always.
13, 14, 15, always worked after school. I would get off school after basketball practice. I would have to go. I used to work in a chicken place, selling chicken after school.
Cook chicken or
It was
live
one
chicken?
of those rotisserie places that people can come in and buy half a chicken. I would do that till like 8, 9 o'clock at night, then go home. But I always had a job. He always. And we were on welfare, owning a home. And,
Did your mom work?
she'd go clean white people's house all day. That's what she did. She'd go clean some white person's home. And that's probably why she died at 52 years old. Having to go sick and whatever. Didn't matter. She had to get out that bed and get on that bus and drive and go all the way across, because she didn't drive, and go all the way across town to some rich white person's house and scrub their floors all day long, and then come home and fix something to eat and never complain. Never complain. Not once. And at
But
52.
And you said that they thought life was good for them.
It was better than when they were kids in South Carolina back in the 1920s picking cotton. It was better than that. And the Ku Klux Klan. My mom was born in 1915. So the 1920s, when she was 10 years old, New York is better than the Ku Klux Klan. And it's better than picking cotton all day. So in her eyes, she was doing better.
So as a child, was she picking cotton?
As a 10-year-old child, because that's what you did in South Carolina. We can all glorify the world, make it all sound. But my mother at 10 years old was picking cotton, and my father was doing the same thing.
They both came up from Carolina.
South Carolina, same town. They didn't know each other then. It wasn't until after, because what happened was the blacks who moved up from the South, they were from New Ellington, South Carolina.
Both of them were from
Yeah.
the same town?
Same town, but you didn't know each other. So, but when they moved to New York, it seems like the people from New Ellington kind of moved into the same neighborhoods in Brooklyn. And then my father's sister kind of met my mother and then introduced to her brother when he came back from the war. So that's why out of 6 kids, 4 of us have one father, and then me and Jerome have a different father. So she was married, never married, but two different husbands, two different.
Your father was the veteran. The other children had.
Yeah, Green wasn't a veteran, right? That's their other. So my sister had a different father.
I see. Okay.
So they were half brother and sister.
And so there were how many kids?
Six kids.
6 kids.
6 kids with the same mother, and 4 with the same father, and 2 with a different father.
And so so she wasn't married, and so was that an issue growing up that your parents weren't
Still
married?
an issue. In 2021, in Hamden, Connecticut, I had to go upgrade my driver's license because it had expired. And I was living in Connecticut at the time, Torrington. I had to renew my driver's license. So I go to Hamden, that's the closest place, to make an appointment to get my license. On the birth certificate, it has Alexander Williams Major. At the bottom, it has Hattie Williams, Thomas Major. When I went to get a federal license, they would not give me one. Even though I'm a veteran, I had top secret clearance in the military, but I couldn't justify that W, even though I stood there at motor vehicle showing them my mother wasn't married. That's why the W is still there.
The W for Williams.
Right. Because on some of my older documents, there's no W. So here I am now trying to get my driver's license renewed. And they made me go back and forth 3 times trying to get the paperwork. Because every time I go, they told me I need something else. We have to prove who you are. The bottom line, after 3 tries, I drove to Bridgeport one day. Got a license right away. I think
That's
the
so
color
crazy.
of my skin is what was causing the problem. I don't want to. I believe that what the problem really was. They found a way to jerk me around in that little town. But I drove to Bridgeport finally because I had enough. I took the same paperwork, identical paperwork. I was at Bridgeport Motor Vehicle, 10 minutes, license renewed with a Connecticut license.
Wow. That makes no sense.
But still, that
Yeah.
W is still on there. When I moved to New York here, they removed the W because it had no significance anymore. But New York State said, the lady said, it's going to follow you. It's because it's on my Social Security. And it's at this age, there's no need in trying to change it. So when you ask the question, does it look 73 years old is still haunting me.
That's so crazy.
And when I hear, to bring it to present, when you hear them saying, moving forward, we want to implement SAVE, guess what that's going to do to me? With all the paperwork I got, all the military stuff up on that board, awards, I got approved before I can vote because of that W. And so it's still a problem when people want to make it a problem. But I'm learning how to get around it because my passport, I have to renew my passport. So when I renew my passport, it'll just be another verification of W. I can't get rid of it because it's on the birth certificate and it's on Social Security. So, but it's one of those things I have to continue. But when people want to be what they are, racist, they use it against me. And that's the reality I still live with. It's almost like a reminder, I don't care how far you go, I don't care how far you come, doesn't matter. I'm severely concerned because of the effect of Obama. Nothing
The
that
effect
could-
of Obama.
effect of Obama on America.
What do you think
Because
that was?
what happened is you've had a black president, and it sparked the fears that were underneath the blankets. Because there were those saying for years, they're moving up, they're moving up, they're getting better at this, they're getting better, and then they got better. Look what's going to happen from now on. We're going to lose America. We're going to lose our privilege.
Do you think there's also the idea of angry black men, and that, so they're going to, and the whole, the plantation fear that the slaves are going to rise up and revolt against the masters, and so that all the black men in America are going to come and revolt and slaughter us in our sleep? Is that the...
It's that mindset is out there. It's out, and it's very clear today. But asking me what I think, I'm a little concerned about the future. And what I am concerned about is what I see. When I see 21 to 25% of young blacks up to 24, 25 years old voting for Trump in the last election, concerns me. When I look and hear what went on at the rodeo in Houston about a week ago, I am totally worried. Where are we going?
What happened at the rodeo?
The rodeo is something they had a carnival in Houston every year. I've never been there. What happened was it's a lot of spring break students go there for this thing called a rodeo. It was put on by blacks. What happened down there was just an atrocity this last week. The young black kids went down there and just showed their behinds, if that's the word to use. There were women down there having sex all over the place in public and a lot of other places, videoing it on TikTok. I'm not talking about 4 or 5 people. There's a mass mobs of people.
What does that say to you?
I'm still trying to process. I'm still trying to process where we're going, because these are young people. No self-respect, no dignity whatsoever. And these are young college students. Some of the more privileged, really. But what concerns me is the distance between the civil rights movement and now. Because a lot have no idea about civil rights movement.
And in the civil rights movement, going off to Harlem Prep and the Street Academy,
program.
You learned, it was such a gift to know that you could have self-respect.
Absolutely.
And so now these kids are squandering that.
They're squandering a number of things. Opportunity.
They don't see how precious it was.
Right. They do not, and their behavior is displaying it. So there's 2 things that's been happening lately. The voting, which concern me. That's a large percentage of blacks, young blacks, and Hispanics voting for Trump. And then the behavior that I saw a week ago, that was to the point where being videoed.
But where did those things intersect?
It's the age group.
Yeah, but why those kids behaving in inappropriate ways or wild ways? How does that intersect with voting for Trump?
It's the mindset. It's the behavior. It's how they're perceiving their value. What are their perceptions and goals? The same group, age group. What's going on with that age group that they are just wild in belief? No morals whatsoever. Don't seem to understand how we got to this point in the first place. It's the self-respect I'm concerned with. I'm concerned with the whole group, that age group. Because my students are 30 and 40 and their respect meter is almost the same
As yours or
as all of us that grew up. Baby boomers, they seem to be in that core, even though they are Generation X and whatnot. So even my students are kind of. That's probably why I can work with them so well. They seem to have some focus, tremendous self-respect. The women in my class, they come well dressed. They even the ones been divorced. I am somebody. You know, I can see it. But these young girls, I'm not sure what's going on. That's something that I've been looking at, and I don't know if I can put my arms around it just yet, because I'm not in with that crowd, that group. But there's two major things that have happened. The voting in 24 for Trump, and now this behavioral act of thousands of them in Houston. If you get a chance, read about it. It's the thing that has come out of it that really shocks me is the Department of Health in Houston sent out a communique across the country. If you were in Houston and engaging in sexual acts, please go get tested, because there is an abnormal high rate of SPD. National TV. This is where these youth are, black youth. So when people ask me, well, I'm still trying to put my arms around it. Because if you have a Department of Health, have to put out a national announcement, because their records are showing already a high rate of gonorrhea, syphilis at a function. What is going on? And I'm working on that to try to understand it.
I wonder if it's also an element of our parents worked so hard. We just don't want to be bothered with any of that. You know, we want to just live. We don't want to think about whether we need self-respect or whether we're as good as the white kids. We're just going to live.
And that's what it seems like. Total disregard.
And in a way, I mean, that could be refreshing. It's like, I don't have to worry about all these things that my parents or my grandparents had to worry about. But clearly, I mean, I was talking about the ramifications of like the SAVE Act. They just don't realizing.
So it's one of those things I'm pretty sure is going to continue to come up as the incidents continue to get bigger and bigger with the age group. So there has to be a wall at some point where your behavior need to be accountable. So I think that's the jury's out on that one yet.
So you also said that your brothers were doing things like numbers and hustling, and do you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, they were all excellent at what they did. They were very good. My brothers, were into numbers, which are common. Heavy drinkers to the day they died. None of them lived past 50. I'm the only one that even made it out of 50s. They lived a fast lane, and you die early, which is what happens. But their journey is probably what made my journey.
Why is that?
Because I learned from them. I learned what happens to you when you don't take care of yourself. I also learned how to survive on the streets. I've also learned things that I would never do. I've learned when people are lying to me. I've learned when people don't mean me well, because I used to see how they con people. I used to see how they manipulate people. So I grew up in an environment that was very educational, but it wasn't a good education. But I think it set me on my path because I had the opportunity to see. Blood pressure. I went to the doctor in my 20s because my mom had passed away so young with an enlarged heart. So I was aware of, whoa man, this blood pressure can be something. So what? I go to the doctor. I'm in the military, but we're watching my blood pressure at 20 years old, 21, because of my family. I've seen how they suffered and they ignored it. And so I believe their journey in life is what made my success possible.
They were all older than you.
Yeah, all of them. All of them. And I was number 5 out of 6. Because when I was home, they were all married already. They were all, none of us were home at the same time.
Oh.
I was the only kid at home for a long time. And then my younger brother, who was 10 years younger than me, Jerome, came about. But I was the only one, because they all gone. So they're, young adults. And I'm a young man growing up. I would go stay the weekend with them. I would go, visit their families. I would go hang out in the bar with them. When they go out, I would ride with my brothers. And I'm learning as they go along. And so it was, their journey, as bad as it was in some of my eyes, but it was an education for me. And it probably gave me the opportunity to survive. Because I had the opportunity to see what's good, what's bad. Luckily for me, I diverted a bit, with addiction. But, I had to come to grips with that myself. Nobody can get you out of your own pain but yourself. You can get help along the way, but you want to change who you are and what you're all about, you got to do it. There's nobody coming to save you. And that's where, I learned that. But my brother Soil set me up. See, I knew about addiction before I got there. But I couldn't stop myself from getting there.
Well, it was normalized, I guess, for you.
It's when you see drunks. I ain't going down that road. No, buddy. No, I ain't gonna be like that. And then you be like that.
Mm.
It's almost, don't put your hand on that hot stove.
But you do anyway. So you, so your younger brother also then, what happened with Jerome? Did he?
Jerome passed away, he was in his early 40s, from drugs, really. But he had gotten sober. Mm. He was in AA for about a year before he passed away. But at 40, the body was beaten too bad from years of abuse, drinking and drugging and whatnot. And Jerome started early.
So he didn't learn the same lessons you did?
No. Plus, he was the only one at home. Because by that time, I was gone. So he was home as the only child. And Jerome just ran. He did like all the brothers did. He followed them closer than I did. I followed them more for learning. Because I didn't do all the things they did. He did more of the things they did. Mm-hmm. So we kind of followed the same path, but he was initiating it, I was just learning it. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of it I just wasn't in me. The manipulating people, I would do it and feel bad. Somebody's trying to help you and you're manipulating them, and it would mess my conscience up. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't good at that stuff, whereas Jerome was a lot better than me. Yeah.
So I do want to move on. Mm-hmm. I do want to ask you, so your father had a metal plate in his head, so he was in World War II. Where was he in the war?
He was in Europe. Well, he was in, I forgot, some part of Europe. I'm not sure what part. But it was an explosion.
Oh.
An explosion. I don't know if it was I think it was a landmine. Mm-hmm. That the truck hit the landmine and it got blown up and it split his head open. Mm-hmm. And he spent months in the hospital to where they couldn't even put the scalp back together. So what they do is they put a metal plate over the brain and then they close the scalp best they can with a mesh. So that's why you had to have the metal plate to protect the brain, because the skull is not all there. So he used to have these enormous headaches all the time. You know, he ate bare aspirin like it was going out of style. I mean, he would go through bare aspirin like you wouldn't believe. So he was in pain most of the time.
And he used a jackhammer, I can't imagine.
Oh man, it just the thought of that was crazy. So, but that was his thing, and you know, he let you know about it.
So he was one of those African American soldiers who was treated like everybody else when he was over there fighting, came back to be segregated again.
He was segregated in the army.
In the army as well, so he was in a
He
black
wasn't
troop.
allowed to. No.
How about in the hospital? Was in a segregated hospital?
Part of it, yeah, the VA hospital, yeah. The military desegregation didn't start till after the war. It was like 1947, 48, something like that. But no, they didn't know that fighting together.
Well, my understanding was that African American troops over there, they might be treated more similarly in theater.
Yeah.
But then when they come back, they're treated like, don't come near me. Don't.
Yeah. You know, in France, the French people treated them. Poland, the Polish people, the nationals treated them with respect. But their own people, no. And that's why I love Europe. That's why I stayed as long as I could. Because not only did I feel like it, I was shown respect. And I remember a little German kid asked me one time, because I was saying, you know, America this, America's nice, it's beautiful for this. And the young German kid asked me, said, well, if it's so nice, why do you keep volunteering to stay here? And, you know, it made me think for a minute. And then I told him, I said, you know, there are some things that are good about America, and there are a lot of things that are not good. It's the not good is the reason why I stay here. Because here, it's all good. It started at Rucker. One Sunday afternoon, this guy walks up to me. Gus Guy was his name. Gus was the basketball coach at Drake University, assistant coach in Des Moines, Iowa. So, he had mentioned that, look here, would you possibly be interested in going to Iowa State? Iowa State is about 10 miles away from Drake in Ames, Iowa. I have no idea where Iowa is. I don't even know where the hell it is. But anyway, I'm like, whoa, man, yeah. So, but the thing was, I was in the Street Academy program. His wife was working as an English teacher at Susquehanna University in Selinsgrove, Pennsylvania. They got in contact with the Street Academy, Harlem Prep. Harlem Prep had been trying to get students into college. And Harlem Prep was a part of the Urban League. People got together and started talking and said, look here, this is a way to get students, New York students, into college, because that would boost the finances for the program, the Urban League. Look at our students going to college. So, what happened was, Iowa State wouldn't accept me because I didn't have a high school. But what they agreed to do, if he can prove he can do college work, if he can prove he can do college work, we'll accept it with a basketball scholarship. Okay. So Gus gets back to my sister, the coach, says that we have to get him into college, either here in New York or somewhere. Gus' wife worked at Susquehanna University in Pennsylvania. They were trying to get minority students. So Gus' wife went to the English department and said, we have students that we feel are qualified. So I went to Susquehanna on a trial basis as a kind of, let's see if they could do it or not.
At what age then? Because you were
It was
still...
about 19, something like that.
Oh, okay, so you were old enough to be
Yeah.
out of high school.
Yeah, I was about the right age to go to college. So, I go to Susquehanna. I'm there for the spring.
On a full scholarship?
No, just as a student.
But so who paid for that?
I got a loan.
Okay.
They put out the paperwork for a loan. So I was able to get my sister helped me fill out the paperwork and everything. Okay. So I get to Susquehanna. My father and a friend of his drive me all the way to Selinsgrove, Pennsylvania. Mormon country. Not Mormon. Quaker country. I mean, they dropped me off.
Culture shock, right?
Yeah, they dropped me off on the campus. There's, I don't know, there were 4 other students, no, about 6 students from the same street academy I'm at. Because now it was a group of us that were going, that were pretty smart students. They had done very well on their SATs. I had 8, I think I scored 6 something. I was so bad. But anyways, the basketball they're concerned about. I get to Susquehanna and I stay for the summer semester, spring, and I get all C's. I had sociology, history 101, 4 easy classes. I got all C. Okay, now I can go to Iowa State as a transfer student. Now I'm no longer a new college student. So this is how people were wheeling and dealing. Now I applied to Iowa State. And I could apply now as a college transfer, which made me eligible for a scholarship now.
I see. Okay.
So,
and you wanted to go there because of basketball?
Right.
Okay.
That's where I wanted to go first. I didn't want nothing to do with Susquehanna, but it was the only way to get there.
Okay.
And you had people wheeling and dealing behind.
It's the way to open the door to college.
Yeah. So I get to Iowa State. I get there. By this time, my daughter was born already.
Oh.
Yeah, Nicole was born. She was
You were married at this point?
No, we didn't get married
Okay.
until 5 years later.
Okay.
So anyway, they're in New York. I'm in Iowa. They were living in Manhattan, Douglas Projects, and Spanish Harlem. So she stayed with her mother, and I'm in Iowa. Kids born. So we're there for about a year and a half. Then they moved out there with me. The second year I was there. Then what happened was the draft was going on, military draft.
Right. So this is what year?
1972.
Okay.
The draft is going on because I'm 20 years old. Yeah, the draft is going on. Nixon was president, and they started this lotto thing, and my lotto number was 125.
Mm.
Then they said every year the lotto would go to a certain number. In 1971, it only went to 80. So 125, I wouldn't have been drafted. Mm-hmm. That end of the year, they said next year, we're probably not going to go higher than 60 or 70. If you have a college deferment, which I had, because I was a student athlete, if you deny your deferment and go 1A, eligible for draft, you do not get drafted in that year, you never have to worry about the military. It was one of those agreements. I thought about it. I said, well, I wouldn't even have to worry about the draft anymore. Because every year you had to reapply not to be drafted. So anyway, I went ahead and denied my deferment and went 1A for the draft, hoping that they'll never get to my number. And if they don't,
because it was high enough.
Right.
Uh-huh.
I don't have to worry about military ever again. I don't want to go in the military. I did that. By April, May, they were already at 100.
Uh-huh.
I knew I'm getting drafted. I'm done. They're already at 100.
And this was at the height of the Vietnam War.
Yeah. So I went ahead and decided, talked with Lorraine, or girlfriend at the time, I'm not going in the Army. I am not going in the Marines. and I can't swim, so I ain't going in the Navy. So the only thing left was the Air Force. So I go to Des Moines and I tell the guy that I want to join the Air Force. And so he tell me, you have to go back to New York because you have to enlist in the state of your birth. It was a crazy thing.
So this meant leaving school.
Eventually, yeah. So I flew back to New York. The Air Force flew me before I was even in. Went to Brooklyn, signed up for the military, joined the Air Force, but I wasn't going to have to go for about another 4 or 5 months. So I go back to Iowa, but I knew that September I have to go. So I'm going to join the Air Force. So we stayed living in Iowa until like August. And then the wife came to New York. I finished up in Iowa and then went back to Fort Hamilton in Brooklyn, where I was inducted into the military. And then the military for the next 14 years. But that's how I wind up in there. I was trying to avoid it at all costs. I did not want to be no military person. But it turned out, again, to be one of the best things could happen.
Why was it so good?
Because of the doors it opened.
And what were those doors?
Those doors were enormous travel, living in countries that I could only dream of living in. And
which ones? Where did you live?
Right after Vietnam.
You did go to Vietnam?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was in Vietnam for a year.
For combat? Were you in combat?
I was in a medical unit. Medical evacuation. We pick up the wounded.
So you would be
on a helicopter.
Helicopters picking people up. That was pretty dangerous work, right?
Yeah. That's how I wind up in that, because the helicopters were getting shot down and they were so short of staff. So they put the new people where they needed somebody. And then again, it was the best thing for me. As far as when I joined the unit, the general, he was only a colonel at the time, had taken over that unit, the sundown unit, and he developed new techniques. Those new techniques gave us more protection and more training. So they weren't shooting down as many helicopters anymore. It was dangerous, but we were better trained. So
that must have been pretty horrible anyway. You're picking up people who are...
Yeah, and that opened the door for phase next. Healthcare. One thing seemed, now when I look back, one thing led to the other. A job I didn't want, I got because everybody was getting killed. So I wound up on a helicopter unit picking up wounded. And after that year was up, I leave there and I had to find a job because I'm going to stay in the military.
So you have to find a job within the military?
Yeah. You have to
They
find...
don't just assign you to something?
They would like to, but they give you a choice to see where you're best at.
I see.
Because this is the Air Force. They are stouch about skill sets. You just don't put people anywhere. We are the Air Force. So you test. And I did well with health. So they offered me a healthcare job. And that was, the beginning of that. But it took 2 years to get into school. So then I leave Vietnam and I go to Thailand. Because they don't know what to do with me. Because they have all these resources of people and the war's over. What do you do with all these people? So what they do is they were sending us to Bangkok. And then in Bangkok, they kind of shift you around the world, wherever you need it. But I didn't have a job because I was going to go to school and learn how to be in medicine. So what they wound up doing, they had me working in the morgue, which I didn't like. The people scared me. And so in Bangkok, I stayed there for 6 months. And then they shipped me from Bangkok to Japan. So I stayed in Japan for a year. The family joined me there in Japan. We stayed there for a year. And then from Japan, we moved to the Philippines, Clark Air Force Base. And then we stayed there for a year. And then that's when they informed me that I got accepted to school, surgery school. 2 years at Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio, Texas. So we coming stateside. We've been in Asia for about the last 3.5 years. So now we're going stateside, and I'm going to Lackland Air Force Base for over 2 years in surgery school. So
To learn, what would you be learning there? What did you learn?
be a surgeon's assistant.
Okay.
So the school is 2 years starting. The starting is 2 years. And so what wound up happening, we stayed in San Antonio while I was in school for 2 years. Upon graduation, they sent us to Wiesbaden, Germany for 2 years. It was in Wiesbaden that I got further training. And we lived in Wiesbaden for 2 years. I was 77 through 79. We stayed there 2 years. Then they shipped us from there to Travis Air Force Base in California, and we hated it. It was in about 45 miles north of San Francisco, and we hated it. Small town. Rush hour lasts about 10 minutes. It was just, 6 o'clock, everything shut down. And, we both from New York. We've just come from Japan, the Philippines. We're coming from epic centers. We grew up in an epic center. And now I'm in this town, I can't deal with this. I complain every single day to get out of there. And so they wind up, after 3 months, they called me in the office. They said, they're sick of you, man. You're complaining. And the guy called me and he said, they're sending you to somewhere in Europe. And I'm like, I just came from, where are they sending me? And he said, nobody could read the code numbers on the sheet that they sent me. So we finally got one of the ladies in the office. We can't read, what do these codes mean? So she looked, she said, you're going to the 17th Air Force, the European Command, NATO. Wait a minute, I just came from there. But there's like 20 bases. Where am I going? Someplace called Wiesbaden. So shit, you gotta be fucking kidding me. We're going home. I just came from there. So I called the wife, said, we're going back to Germany. She hung up on me. She was so happy she forgot she hung up. Because she had a supervisor's job in the department store in fashion. She's going back to her job. Because in the military, even though you leave, you go anywhere, you keep the same job. The wives keep the same job, no matter where you go in the world. If you're a manager or supervisor, no matter what department you work, your husband gets transferred, when the wife goes, she got the same job. They always have the same jobs, taking care of the family. So what happened was, we're going back.
This was a base store? The
It's
store was on
a
the base?
department store.
On the base, though?
Yeah,
Oh, I see, okay.
yeah, they're all over the world.
Okay,
They're called the Exchange.
okay.
I still shop from them. They're the biggest department store in the world. They're all over the world. They're military. And they're everywhere. Even up at West Point, they have them. They're a supermarket. No, they're a supermarket plus a department store.
Okay, I never heard that name. I heard of the PX.
That's it.
Okay, okay,
It's just a different name.
okay.
Now they call it used to be commissary, and now it's the Exchange.
Okay, and it's a big department store?
Yeah.
And they have grocery stores in them too, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
I shop there all the time, online.
okay.
Because you're a veteran, I'm allowed to shop. So, when this happened, they called me in the office at personnel at Lackland. At Travis. They called me in, I go in, and they sit me down in the room and they said, well, the general will be in a minute. So I'm like, oh shoot, I done screwed up. What does the general want to see me for? Yeah, I'm going back to Germany, where we came from. He walks in, he's a brigadier general now. When I saw him, he was my same commander from Vietnam. I hadn't seen him in like about 4 years. General Allen, he walks in and, sit down, gentlemen. So we all sit down. And he's stifling through papers. And he just looks at me and says, young man, I have a few pieces of paper I need you to sign. Yes, sir. So he tells me, you're going back to Wiesbaden. You're going back there for a reason. What we plan on doing is starting a new unit. And this new unit, it will be to protect Americans in the European airspace. Okay? And the unit will be called Sunday. And I'm kind of like, okay. Not understanding what it is, but I'm getting the hell out of here. I don't care. So anyway, what wound up happening, he says, there's one other thing I need you to understand. You're going to go there for a 4-year assignment. 4 year is a long assignment. There's a 2-year assignment, which is standard. Then a 4-year is considered a long assignment. Most people that go overseas prefer the 4-year assignment. Because in 2 years, you're getting ready to move. So you got a family, you'd rather go 4. So he said, you're going 4 plus. I don't understand what's 4 plus. The Air Force cannot send you longer than 4 years. What he made me do, you're going to sign for the 4 years. You're also going to agree to do an extra 2 years. So you're going to be there for 6 years. But they can only make me stay 4, so they have to make me sign now. I agree to sign up for the extra 2. I'm good with that. I love Wiesbaden. The wife loves Wiesbaden. You don't have to move the family anymore. So I signed the paperwork. So they just said, you're going to Wiesbaden for 6-year assignment. So it'll be a total of 8 years because I was already there 2 years. And now I'm going back for 6. So I told the wife, and she ready to go. She was ready to go, So anyway, we go back for 6 years. What our assignment was medical evacuation. I'm attached to the hospital in Wiesbaden, the U.S. Air Force Regional Medical Center, Wiesbaden. And what that was we were the unit that takes care of Americans that live Africa, the Middle East, and Europe. That was the medical facility for those, and that was our job. If a woman, let's say, is pregnant, and she has a problem, and she needs to be in an American hospital, we fly to Africa, pick her and her family up, fly them back to Germany. She'll stay in the hospital, in the hotel next to the hospital, till after she gives birth. If somebody in your family is sick, kid gets hit by a car, whatever, you want to be in an American hospital, the Air Force will fly wherever you live, the Middle East, bring your family to Germany, where you will be taken care of by medical personnel. When you're well enough, we'll fly you back home. And this is any American. The reason why they did that was most large companies were sending more Americans to work in Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. How do you take care of all those Americans? So we have a large medical center in Germany, and we have the facilities to transport.
So there were civilians there as well, not just wives and
right.
Not so anybody. So if you're working,
civilians also, yeah.
Okay.
So we were the hospital. So it was a very large hospital, and we just took care of the European theater under NATO. So that's where I got a lot of experience in the Middle East, because wherever country you lived in, we go in and out constantly. Iraq, Iran, Saudi Arabia. I did my trauma training at the trauma center in Israel. And the reason why we did that was because we have 2 trauma training. One of them's 3 months I did at San Francisco General. That's for car accidents, gunshot wounds, things of that nature. The trauma center in Tel Aviv is for bombing, patients, and things of that nature. They're different trauma, and we had to be trained in both. How do you deal with a person that's been in a bombing as far as a critical ill patient versus somebody shot. So you had to go through 6 months of trauma. So we loved it. Europe was good to us because Wiesbaden, Germany sits basically in center of Europe. To get to Paris, I would drive about 5 hours. To get to Spain was about another 5. No matter where you want to go, it's 5 or 6 hour drive because you're sitting right in the middle of Europe. And it was just the best thing could happen to me because I believe Europe is where I grew up culturally. Because now I'm around jazz. I never paid attention to jazz until living in Europe. Musicians all test their music in Europe. I used to hear music way before they hit America because they bring their music to Europe first, where you can test it on many different cultures before you bring it to America. So we would see things way before it gets to America. That's me, I forgot to. But yeah, and so Europe served a very important lesson for me.
After those 6 years, did you leave the military?
Yeah, that was it for me. We would get divorced. The wife had left and came back. And then I went on my party way and started going downhill. She understood the party was going to end eventually. To me, it was going to become a lifestyle, I thought.
The party.
The lifestyle.
But which lifestyle is that?
The driving the Mercedes, the Giorgio Armani suits. I had 2 apartments, but Uncle Sam was paying the bills. Mm-hmm. And the ride was beautiful, but she looked at it all the time. This is only temporary. My mindset was, look at what I'm doing. So we had different mindsets, and hers were more realistic.
So you were kind of thinking, this is me. I am this person in the Armani suit and the fancy car.
I'm just
where
partying.
She's thinking, this is a costume he's wearing for a while.
Yeah, and she's more concerned with savings and looking at it real.
Yeah.
And the thing about it was she protected herself. Because, this...
And the child.
Yeah, and that was the main. So they left. I stayed a couple of years after they left because, I had to, because this is my lifestyle. This is my lifestyle. And I ran it as long as I could. So the military wasn't doing anything for me anymore. Because...
This is kind of like your pimp days.
Yeah, and basically that's what, but a more glorified.
Yeah.
Military man, respected, and, fancy BMW, Giorgio Armani suits, and the whole English conversation, hanging out at German nightclubs, dating German women. This is just I call it now tiger syndrome.
What syndrome?
Tiger Woods. After everybody leave, you go wild. Running women, running like something you wanted to do already, but you were in the corral. And then once the wife left, oh baby, watch out, world, I'm coming. And it was the beginning of the downfall.
And is that where you were already drinking at this?
Yeah, I was already. That was part of the reason why she was on the way out the door. Because the drinking was over a 10-year period before that.
I see.
It was a slow progression. It really started before that. Because even when I met, I was drinking since I was 14, 15. But I kept things under control if it's a reality. I kept functioning. And a lot of it had to do with age, really. You can bounce back quicker. And as I got older, the bounce wasn't there no more.
Was on what you saw in Vietnam and then in trauma centers, that must have been eased by drinking.
Yeah, a lot, a lot. I hate to blame, that on that because I was drinking before Vietnam. You know what I mean? But that just fit into it because I had nightmares. I still have nightmares all these years later. Every now and then, I wake up yelling, maybe once or twice a year now. They've gotten a lot better. I've noticed as I'm more relaxed, less stressful, and ever since I retired, I noticed they've kind of subsided. So I guess the more relaxed I am, but I would wake up sweating. I would have night fights. Well, I'm running in my sleep. And I wake up because Janice would wake me up. Alice, wake up. You been in another fight? Yeah, they were trying to catch me. She would laugh. Yeah, you were running, but I don't think they could have caught you because I'm running in my sleep. But they were all the time. I think a lot of that had to do with the stress of my work job, the long hours, and then and my dreams would seem so real, like I was back in the bar in Vietnam or Thailand. It was like I was right there. But but the drinking had always, drinking doesn't go down, it goes up.
But then you quit at some point. What did you do after you left the Army or the Air Force?
When I left the Air Force, I went and I was living in my sister's place in the basement, drinking all day. Drinking, looking for a job.
Pretty depressed.
No, I would never do. I never had depression. I drank. Because that's what I did. I drank what I had. I get my little VA check. I go get me something to drink. I would sit down in the basement with my sisters and I would drink booze and watch cartoons all day.
You went from this heady lifestyle to just sitting in a basement drinking?
Yeah, because they got no more money. Uncle Sam ain't footing the bill no more. So I go from BMW, Giorgio Armani's, I sold the suits. I had a $1,000 stereo system. I bought it in Europe. In America, it would cost $2,000 or $3,000. I sold it piece by piece to get something to drink.
So how much would you drink in a day?
A quart might hold me.
Of hard liquor?
Yeah, that's nothing.
Wow.
That's not including the beer to chase it.
Wow.
Oh yeah, tolerance had got very high.
That would kill me. I mean,
Most people.
Yeah.
But after years of drinking, your tolerance goes up, and that was normal for me to walk around with that much booze in my system.
And so with that much booze, how did you weren't stumbling?
No,
You're just.
It's normal. And now remember, I'm not really doing much of anything either. I'm sitting around watching TV. I'm not going to work. Have no job at that time. And I'm drinking all my money away. And then I'm living in my sister's basement. I hadn't seen my sister in like 5 or 6 years. Hadn't even talked to nobody. I would leave, don't even call nobody. So you wouldn't hear from me for like 5 or 6 years. And so I'm in my sister's basement drinking all day long. I get my little VA check. I go down to the corner store, pay my little tab that I owe him because he give me credit. I pay my bill, and then I start a new bill for the next check next month. And then my sister, I was living in her house free of charge. She had a nice little room down in the basement. And I would drink her booze. You have a cabinet in your house for your guests, because they don't drink. And then one day she had the audacity to put a lock on it. So what do? I get a screwdriver when her and her husband go out one Sunday. I unscrew the lock, and I drink some of it, and I pour water in it after I drink it, put it back in there. And I did that. And then one day she had company, and a lady she worked with who drinks tequila. And the next day the lady said, Diane, that tequila you served me tastes like water. She comes home embarrassed like hell. And she tastes it. And she calls me upstairs. I can't believe you did this. And then just look on her face. After all I've done for you, what did I do to deserve this? And I'm sorry. That was the best answer I could get. And when I look back, I was sorry because I got caught. I mean, that was the bottom line. So she made me pay for another bottle the next time I got a check. No big deal. And so her feelings didn't matter to me. Because I got to get out. And that went on for a while. Till I finally went to rehab. And then there were 3 more after that, so.
And so, how long were you unemployed after the military?
About a year.
And how did you get then you got this pretty important job?
Yeah. Well, I had to work my way up with that.
Okay.
What happened was I was drinking, then I went to rehab. I got out of the first rehab. Between the first rehab and the second, I got a job through the VA at Westchester Medical Center, about 10 miles from here. And so I got a little gig there working in the burn center, taking care of burn patients. Yeah. And then I had back to drinking, but I kept my job.
And you were drinking while you were working. Were you
Yeah.
on the job drunk, essentially?
Yeah, I would show up drunk. Well, never was falling down, but I was high. I was nice buzz going. And then
So maybe you drink how much before you go to work?
I would drink I would say at least a fifth.
Before you went to work?
Yeah. But remember, I started drinking early in the morning, and I worked evenings.
I see.
So I'm drinking all day before going to work.
Wow.
Plus I had a little buzz from the night before. When I got off work at midnight, I would stop by the bar. Because by the time I get back to, I was living up here at Peekskill. That was about 40 years ago. And I would stop at the bar downtown, get a couple of swigs on the way home. And
It's
then
an expensive habit.
it does add up, and nowadays it's even ridiculous. And then I wound up in second rehab. And then I wound up in rehab at the VA hospital, not far from here. And then I got in trouble at work because somebody did report me. One of the nurses reported me smelling booze on me because it's reaping out of my system. So then I wound up going to a third rehab. I didn't lose my job because of Sue, who was my boss. I mean Mary, who was my boss. I thank God for her. I went to rehab, came out of there.
The VA paid for rehab, I
Yeah.
guess?
And then I went to fourth rehab about 6 months after that. I went right back to drinking.
After the fourth one?
After the third one.
Okay.
So then I went to a fourth rehab, 28 days. And I was just tired. I was beat. But I had no intention to stop drinking.
Uh-huh. You're how old at this point?
About 34. About 34, yeah. And I go to Arms Acres up here in Carmel, rehab. And I just was sick and tired of being sick and tired. I was just sick and tired of suffering. So I remember I was sitting on the end of the bed in the rehab, and I just said, God, if I have to live like this, I'd rather be dead.
Wait, what was uncomfortable though? I mean, if you're drinking that much, it was you enjoyed the drinking, but
the brain and a number of other things come together, and it's just that moment of clarity to let you know you're screwed up. You are nowhere near where you need to be. You are nowhere near what you should be. You are just one screwed up person. And you have a moment of clarity. It's a fleeting moment, but nobody has to tell you you screwed up. You are messed up. And that moment was you're messed up. And you go to sleep and you get up the next day and then they tell you only got a certain amount of time that I was going to get out the rehab and go back out in that world again. Oh God, here I go again, because my record shows I'm leaving and I go back and get high. There was a young girl worked there who was my counselor, and she would always say, you keep saying you're going to do something, you don't do it. You keep saying you're going to go to therapy, you don't do it. And she would always keep saying that. And I'm kind of like, yeah. And I used to tell people what they wanted to hear.
yeah.
And I became good at it. I became a good liar. I could read you and know what moves you and tell you what I know you want to hear.
Well, you had learned that from
Before
from
this.
your brothers.
Right. And then in rehab, I gurgitated it, what I knew you needed, and I would send it to you with such sincerity. And I can gauge if you're getting it or not. So then, but this time when I left, the young girl looked at me and she just said, please let somebody help you. You're not going to win this battle. You have to let somebody help you. So I'll be okay. Yeah. So I left, and they talked about this meeting called Sponsor House, the AA meeting. It's at 12 o'clock, 12:30 to 2 o'clock, and I had to be to work at 4. And the meeting was about 10 miles from where I worked. So it was close proximity. It was the right time because I had to be to work at 3:34. I went because I had to go to therapy also as part of my aftercare, mandatory. I had to go to aftercare where you sit in a room with a bunch of people in a circle. Then I had to also go to therapy individually because I had been to rehab 4 times. And then I had to go to AA. And that pissed me off. There's too many people telling me what to do. I'm too smart for this. And these people telling me what to do. They just have no idea who I am. And I believe that still. And what wound up happening, I went to this meeting. So Wednesday night, I couldn't go to work. I had to take off Wednesdays to go to this group therapy that I thought was a waste of time. Friday morning at 10 o'clock, I had to go to individual therapy. 6 months, mandatory. And then I had to go to this AA crap. All these people trying to run my life was the way I looked at it. But for some reason, the AA thing started working a little bit, meaning I would go to the meeting. The therapy I had a problem with. And we finally had a breakthrough one Friday. He had said, look, let me ask you a question. Do you have any respect for my job as a therapist? Let's be honest. I said, I'm sorry, man, but I see no use in it. I see no use at all in what you do. So he asked me, well, where does that come from? I said, my father every day said therapists were useless. Because I guess he was in a lot of therapy from the brain injury. And all my life, that's all I heard. You're useless. Psychiatrist, psychologist, all that psych shit, you're useless. And I just believe what he said. And he just said, okay, let's do it this way. Can we come to an agreement? Okay. Can we say that you've been to rehab 4 times? You, as a 35-year-old grown man, cannot live without putting booze or some chemical in your body. Can we come to an agreement that you have a problem? So I thought about it for a minute. I thought it might be a trick question. And then I said, okay, I agree. I might have a little issue. And from that on, we became a working partnership because I realized I got a problem. I do need help. I wasn't going to admit it. And he didn't make me admit it. Mm-hmm. But we worked on stuff for the next 6 months. And the problem was me. The world scared me. And everything about what I did was to present a thing of, I'm not scared. Look at me. The big fancy car, shining all the time. The fancy suits, trying to look like I got it together. But inside it was never together. And he picked through that. So that was the beginning of recovery. Mm-hmm. Once I came to grips with, nah, that ain't you, man. And then I just started going to AA. Because after 6 months, he had said, you know what? We've come as far as we can. You know the deal now, and you know what you need to work on. And I believe AA can take you the rest of the way. But I believe if you let people help you, you're going to go places in your life you didn't even think you're going to go. And so I reluctantly, because I didn't want to go to AA, I kept going just for the hell of it. And things slowly. And then one day I was there, and my sponsor, Jerry, who was the pastor of the church that we met in, he became my sponsor. And one day he mentioned, we sit and talk each day before the meeting. I would meet him at 12 o'clock. So from 12 to 12:30, we would talk. And he said, I really think you should go back to college.
You haven't graduated at this point.
No, I was still a freshman. I was a freshman for 17 years. Because I would take a class and get an incomplete or drop it. So I never accumulated enough credits to be a sophomore. But I would sit and talk with Jerry all the time. So he said, I think you should go back to college. So I thought about it, and I listened to what he told me. So from year 7 to my 10th anniversary in AA, I was in school. So I went from undergraduate school to graduate school to postgraduate.
So where did you end up going to college then?
Mercy.
Okay, in New York City.
Dobbs Ferry, about 20 miles from here, 10 miles from here. And then I went to NYU when I finished my graduate work to do postgraduate work at NYU, where I went to class every Saturday for about 3 years. And then that's when the promotion started. But
so you still had your job at this hospital?
Right after I graduated from undergrad, then I left Westchester Medical Center. And then that's when I began to slowly move up. I took a job at New York Downtown Hospital, down near the Fisherman's Wharf, down there. And then I began to slowly move up.
Sorry, I lost my train of thought. So you studied, what was your degree in, your undergraduate degree?
Management.
Okay, and then your
master's was in organizational leadership development.
Okay.
And then I continued to work on leadership development through courses at NYU, advanced courses. And at NYU, everybody in my class had master's degree already. And they were Harvard graduates, Yale graduates. And we just worked on special things for the whole school year, like statistics in New York, understanding healthcare billing. So I just fine-tuned my skills. But for about 7 years, I was in school. Every day, I was in some part of education.
And you were dry all this time now?
Oh yeah.
So you stopped drinking before you went to college then?
I had 3 years in AA when I went to college. Went back to college, yeah.
And that was it? You
Haven't stopped since. Yeah. And things had changed. AA changed everything. Opened up doors that were closed because I got sober. And I began to live life on life's terms. Began to look at life as it is, not the way I want it to be. And being able to deal with what comes down the pike. And it built a network of people. And then as I grew in AA, it allowed me to be me. Even though you're a part of this program, I still developed individually.
So, if life was so great drinking, how did life transition to be good, letting go of that?
Because the happiness with drinking was artificial.
Okay.
It was not happy. It was happy, sad, when you come down. So it wasn't real. It was imaginary. But now it's real. It's real. Life is life. And that's the difference. Because there's no chemical influencing it. It's the ups and downs that brings the serenity. But you have to stay connected. Because I have to go to meetings. And after 39 years, I still go to 3 or 4 meetings a week.
Wow.
Like last weekend, there was an AA convention on humility at the Marriott Hotel in Terrytown, about 10 miles from here. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, that's what I was doing.
Why is humility a theme for alcoholics?
It's just, you have to be humble. And life will humble you. So the theme of this convention was talking about humility, what it means, how it is used in our lives. But that wasn't the only topic. That was the theme of the conference, the convention. But humility is so important in all of our lives. So it's addressing humility, identifying it, and the role that it plays in your life.
Being humbled enough to be able to say, I had a problem and I surmounted it, or being able to say, yes, I have a problem, and that's where the
That's
humility
where it comes on
in.
a daily basis.
And do you still want a drink after all these years? Does it still come to you?
It doesn't come into mind. What will happen to me is I have a tremendous fear of drinking. But there's a process. What happens is, the first thing happens if I'm not following the program, going to meetings, my behavior changes first. The behavior change, because the behavior is still there. You know, I want to manipulate, I want to gamble, I want to run the streets, but I know that's wrong. I shouldn't be doing that. And I have the control to know not to do it, because I'm reminded in meetings daily, these things don't work for you, that's why you don't do them. But if you're not around that environment, then the disease starts talking to you. You never needed those people in AA. They were just telling you what to do. Because see, the disease is still there. And if I'm not doing what I need to do to stay sober, you'll get drunk. But what happens first is behavior.
And you start noticing it.
Oh yeah, you would notice it too. Oh yeah. Yeah, ask anybody any wife married to somebody in the program, the guys always joke, my wife told me I better go to a meeting. Because she can tell, very friendly all the time, all of a sudden agitated or angry at something, and you kind of look and say, that's a little out of character. He usually doesn't fly off the handle that quickly. Then they kind of know.
Lost their inner peace.
Yeah. Maybe you should go to a meeting. So, you've been around somebody, you can tell, because the behavior changes. It's when the behavior changes and continues to change if you're not doing something to readjust it. And the behavior changes, and before you know it, that little drink in your head say, you know what? A little shot would take care of that anxiety. And if you don't take care of that, it'll build. Just a little shot. And that little shot, you off to the racetrack. So that's why you'll hear people that on a trip in a hotel room where they got them little bars in there. You gotta be careful because it's right there. See, there's no booze here. I get mad as I want. I gotta leave here. And you would think that by leaving here, by the time I get to where it is, something would have told me, nah, you better not do this. That's why most people don't keep booze in their house. Because you don't want the close proximity. And the one thing I've learned over the years, don't mess with this. Just because I've been around for 39 years, I don't mess with it. Because it's powerful. So I've learned, and I tell young people all the time, that just come in the program, get 3 or 4 years, be careful what you're thinking. Because you don't have it made. That disease is cunning and baffling. And it will have you back out there before you realize what happens. So, it's a constant vigilance. I go to meetings 3 times a week to stay right. There's a lot of other people that need to be going to something because their brains ain't working right. And I look at them and I wish you had a program to go to. Because anybody that mad all the time, I don't want to be there. So, it's one or the other. I have somewhere to go. When I get up in the morning, I know what my problem is. I didn't even got to look for it. And that's how I roll. Now, I do stay confidential because a lot of times people that I'm around will always ask me, anybody I'm talking to, they will ask, is he in the program? Is he in the program? Because they think everybody I know is in the program. But I try to take care of other people's confidentiality. Because in surgery, I always tell people to be careful what you tell your doctor. I know some people will walk in and say, yeah, I told my doctor I'm in the program, blah, blah. Be careful with that. And the reason why, I've been in surgery many a day after the patient's put to sleep, and anesthesia may mention, I went light on the medication with this individual because he tells me he's in the program, Alcoholics Anonymous, and then here comes a comment, oh, that's a bunch of crap. That's bullshit. That's just a cop-out, blah, blah, blah. And that's what that doctor really thinks about it. But the bottom line is, he might have grown up in an alcoholic family. So even though he's a Harvard graduate doctor, he's still carrying some baggage. So I just tell people, be careful. It's good to tell people, but watch who you tell them. And so I'm very careful with others. I don't mind as much now because I'm retired. But while I was still working in charge of millions of dollars, I was very careful because I don't need my bosses knowing because I don't know their history. But nowadays I don't care.
So then you did have this job. For how long? You were in the hospital. You were kind of a big cheese there.
I was the executive director of surgery. For the last 10 years, I was in executive positions.
With how many people? You were in charge of how many people?
At Mount Sinai, at Beth Israel, there's approximately 300 people in my department. If you look at the chain of command, I was number 2. My boss was an orthopedic surgeon, senior vice president. That's who I reported to. So out of about 300 people in 4 different locations. And every aspect of that was my responsibility. Finance, day-to-day operations, the whole shebang.
It's quite a leap from being possibility of being a janitor to where you
Wind up, yeah, and absolutely. That just shows you I don't even know what to call it. That's just somebody that just looks at your complexion and decides what you should be doing. Because it had no determining factor whatsoever. Given an opportunity, it is acceleration. And that's all it was. Just a simple opportunity. But the road to get there was a bumpy one. But it was my road. I wouldn't turn it in for nothing.
Yeah, so is there anything you would take out of there and say, I wish I hadn't experienced that?
No, because it all made me the person I am right now. Every step. Not every one of them I like, but every one of them had a purpose. Every piece of the puzzle of my life fitted just right for the time. A lot of them wasn't good. A lot of them was downright bad. But it was the good that comes from them down the road. So if I had to look at it as a mosaic, the prejudice served a purpose. The hatred from people served a purpose. The love from people served a purpose. And all those purposes make me one happy 73-year-old because I've been there. And I think it helps my students because they ask me, you always seem to be a little happy. And I just say, I'm doing God's will. This is why I'm still alive. This is why, because I am supposed to be doing what I'm doing. I've been kept alive to make sure you don't have to make the same mistake. Every morning I get up, I'm happy because I am doing exactly what I'm supposed to.
So in terms of like the teaching that you're doing or being present for your position as an alcoholic, or someone who has wisdom gained from civil rights, though all those things combined are here for
all of them on purpose. The civil rights, growing up doing segregation, being made to get on that yellow school bus in the morning and having to go somewhere people don't want you. When I see people who are struggling because they having a problem, like the immigrants now, I know where they're coming from. I know how they feel. And when I talk to them, they know I know what that feels like. And all the other things that have happened have been just for the right purposes. And that's why I am who I am. The students, the one thing they say to me about anything else, you care. You care. I never told them I care. I've never indicated in any language that I care about them. But that's how they describe me.
And what are these classes that you're teaching?
It's leadership development. They are in the master's degree. They are in the middle of their degree. It's a 1-year program. It's leadership development, become an executive is what we're gearing for. And my job is to guide them through a process of philosophy training, critical thinking development, because you have to be taught how to critically think. And my job is to take them from a management mindset to a leadership mindset. That's what I need to do in 1 year.
So these are people who have a job and they want to move up in their careers?
Most of them are managers already, police officers, firemen. I have one who was last year was a Connecticut state trooper, a New York state trooper, and they've been on the job 15, 20 years, but in order to move up, they have to have a master's degree because some job requirement. So these are very intelligent people already. So this is all that I gain. These are the kind of people that I'm engaged with, and that's the exchange that I'm getting from them, things that I have no idea. What in the world am I going to tell a Connecticut state trooper? But we communicate beautifully because I have something he needs, he has something I need. And in the human experience, it's a mutual experience. We're both helping each other. He'll get what he wants, and I get what I want. And we both work together. The New York State trooper, the college students I have, they're all managers, all of them, already. And one of the things happened, I had to explain to them earlier this year. They hand me in their papers, and there's a draft of it, or even the final. Every single paper, they get about a 2 or 3 page reply. Thorough. There's one section that they had problems with sometimes, and that's improvements, suggestions for improvement. And sometimes, some people think this stuff is smoking. And this guy's talking about some improvements that you can do. And I tell him, let me explain that to you so you're no confusion. If I don't put on there that something is absolutely wrong, then your paper is not wrong. What I am indicating to you, in my day, it was okay to be good. Today, you got to be excellent and on your way to exemplary. So what I'm telling you, this is good. It's not good enough. You got to do better. Now the choice is yours. You can leave your paper the way it is now, or you can go back and spend another couple of weeks and improve it. It's up to you. But the bottom line, good ain't good enough no more. That only worked in my day. Because now, the Hispanic young lady, the black young lady, the black one, you better come sharp.
Are all of your students?
Hispanic and black.
All of them?
Yeah. 90% women.
Oh.
Been that way for years.
Hmm.
Men are not going to graduate school at levels they used to. And they all need to understand.
Is this, so how is it that, is Lehman typically,
Lehman is located in Hispanic neighborhood.
Okay, so it's a
In the
commuter
Bronx.
school, essentially? It's not a boarding, it's not, are there dormitories there? Or-
Yeah, they are. It's a
Okay.
4-year senior college.
Okay, so, but most of them are people of color,
Yeah.
and, but it's not an HSBC?
No.
Okay.
It's a part of City University of
Okay.
New York.
Okay,
There's about 13 colleges. Hunter College is the more famous, and Baruch are 2 of the more famous. We're all in the same system.
okay, so,
It's a part of City University. I get paid by New York State. I get paid by the same place the tax come from. But it's a part of a big system, and it's just located in the Hispanic neighborhood of the Bronx.
so that's the community that it serves mostly?
Mainly, that's why you have so many Hispanics.
Okay.
You have a lot of people, their mother went there. It's very heavy in nursing. You'll hear a lot of nurses say they graduated from Lehman in healthcare. So a lot of the students who work in healthcare now, they usually wind up in my class. Because when they assigning the new students, they know that my history is healthcare. So they say, well, put him in Alex's class. Put him in Alex's class. Put her in Alex's class because of my healthcare background, or veteran. If they're a veteran, they usually put them with me also. Just because we have common ground. And they're all working hard, and I try to push them. And then sometimes I get to a point where I've pushed one as far as I think I can push her. You don't want to go too much. And then what I did after I recommended for her is executive programs, to look into executive programs, because that's where her skill set is, young lady. And so hopefully when she's finished graduate school, she'll move on. So she emails me back, "You're the greatest encourager." But that's what I do. I see talent, and I need to let you know, you're a lot smarter than probably most of your friends. And there are sometimes I have to explain to them what life is going to do to them too. And what I mean by that is, your friends are not bad people. They're good people probably. And there's some of them that are not geared to go to the altitude that you're going to go to. Meaning that there's nothing wrong with them, but you're destined for higher things. And you may have to leave them and assume some new friends. They didn't do anything wrong. It's just where your destiny is. And you have to understand that. And when that decisional time comes, you have to make it. And some of them understand. And when it happens, it's difficult. Because, I don't want to leave my girlfriend. Your girlfriend is not destined to go where you are. You can stay friends, but you got to hang with a new crowd. God has given you a gift. And if you don't take this opportunity, then you can hang out with your girl. That's my job.
And was that a difficult intellectual shift for you to make?
Yeah.
To realize, okay, I don't belong here anymore.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've made that a number of times. And I just had to make another one. Last year, after the surgeries and the illnesses, and a lot of people I was associating with a drama-centric, in the middle of something all the time, and I'm going a different direction. And I just can't associate with that no more. We're still friends. I saw him last weekend, the guys, and we sit and talk a few minutes, but no texting, no phone call. I gotta go a different direction.
Because why? I know you had some health issues last year.
Right.
That you mentioned.
The health issues made me think of what I need to do.
And so what's the difference now?
The difference is, there are some people that are just satisfied in drama. They're satisfied in being in the mix of things that are none of their business. They're
in their own drama?
In their own drama and drama what's going on. I don't have time for that anymore. A lot of my day is spent researching. It's spent more or less with solid goals and a solid direction.
So what are your goals now?
My goals is I'm working on a project of equity for healthcare, and making sure people understand the difference between healthcare equity, medical equity, and I also bring that in as a curriculum development and beginning to teach healthcare professionals the difference in understanding you can do harm without realizing you're doing harm. What I mean by that is, you get 3 people coming for diabetes, and a black, Hispanic, and a white guy. They're going to treat all 3 of us different. Not because of God. The algorithms tell us our bodies deal with things differently. Where in fact, those algorithms came about in the 1950s or so. We may not need different medications just because of ethnicity. So what I'm doing is developing the type of curriculum that teaches young doctors and people coming through. We got to look at different algorithms because it doesn't work anymore in healthcare. But this is what goes on. So it's the different goals.
So you had started a website. Is this the major health?
Major health, but the name that I'm looking toward is the EquiCare Academy.
Okay, so this is a continuation of the website that you were working on?
It's the same one.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just now have a name that it's developing in a brand.
Okay.
So it's going to become an educational development company.
And so who will use this website?
It's for healthcare professionals, general public, because I work with also AARP and seniors and equitable healthcare for them. One part of it is access to healthcare. The other part is being able to understand the social determinants of healthcare. You know, what role does income have? What role does where you live have? Which all have impacts on how you receive healthcare. What I want to do is begin educating people that are in the field, the harm that can be done, and educating the general public on what they should be looking at. Just not accepting what they say to you, doctors and whatnot. So it's all an educational initiative, strictly, along the same line as what I do already. But it's just different subject matter.
So you're one of those people who's just going to keep working till you die.
Yeah, that's the game plan. But that's the way God laid it out. Said, you know, I got you here, got you healthy, and I'm going to squeeze every bit of juice out of you, Alex. And I'm happy, because every morning I get up, I got a purpose.
Yeah.
Every morning, you know, and like the ladies downstairs, you always seem so happy. I got purpose. I'm doing something. You know, instead of walking around here trying to find stuff wrong. But, you know, it's when you have purpose and meaning, life is a lot more fun. Now, there are issues that need to be dealt with, that I don't dispel them or don't want to talk about them or hear about them. But I am concerned. And I'm doing what little I can about helping blacks and Hispanics or whoever else move forward. Because it looks to me like you're going backwards from what I'm seeing. And it's concerning. Because the whole racism thing is not brand new. This whole shenanigans been going on for years. They're just a little bolder now. And I thank them for that. To tell you honest to God truth. I really thank them, because the bottom line is I've been complaining about this for years. Because the dog whistles that have been thrown out for years. Oh, Alex, maybe you're a little too serious. I think you may take, you know, they didn't really mean that. You guys are not listening to me. Oh, here we go with the mad black man. You know, angry black man. But now I look and I say, I told you. I wasn't holding no imagination. These people don't like your ass. They don't like nothing about you. And now they're telling you. Now they're telling you.
So it's more open.
And I thank them. I thank them a lot, because now I tell people, see, I told you years ago about this.
But if it's okay for people to say the kinds of things that they're saying, then doesn't it spread more?
It does, and it's not okay.
Because then it becomes more acceptable.
Right. It's not okay to say it, but it's okay now for certain people to hear it, I believe, because you can't say, I didn't know. Now you know the deal, and now it's the time to do something about it. Because before, there was a time, about 3 years ago, I was complaining about, there were some people I know, and they were complaining about how I speak. I may throw some slang in there every now and then, but these are same people that I had been holding meetings with for a year before, never complained about it. Until something happened, I was doing something that they disagreed with. A policy I had put in place, and some things that they didn't agree, and some things I let them know that they were wrong about in the whole policy arena. And all of a sudden, there's an issue with how I talk.
In what way? What were you
It was
saying?
the words
that they
I
didn't
was
like?
saying they didn't understand it wasn't clear. It was like positivity. And a few other words. Oh, I didn't know you meant that. You've been mentioning this word for 6 months. And all of a sudden now, Eddie Cloud from Princeton, the professor, head of Black History at Princeton. I was sitting home one day listening to Nicole on MSNBC, and Dr. Cloud was on there. And he said one of the things he saw at Princeton, anytime some of the white professors got pissed off with him, for whatever reason, they began to comment on his speech. As, you know, and that was the first time I had heard of that. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. I didn't even know. And he explained historically, as you know, he's a historian, and he explained it was another form of putting you in your place, meaning you don't speak English correctly. And the same thing kind of showed up. I pissed them off, a few of them, by correcting them in something else had to do with policy. So all of a sudden, they don't understand a few words I say. And then about a month later, I see him on TV explaining how it happened at Princeton with him. And I said, okay, at least I know now that I wasn't imagining anything, especially when we've been meeting about a year and you never had a problem until I straightened you out in the meeting. Very politely, just letting you know. But anyway, you know, all these kind of things pop up. But I blew it off once I understood that I was hearing what I'm hearing. And it wasn't my imagination. Because I mentioned it to some other blacks. Alex, no, that's nothing, man. You know, sometimes, you know, people, Alex, that's nothing. But it stuck in my head that maybe it's nothing, you know, until I heard him. I said, no, it was something.
So what do all those tell you?
What it shows me is growing up in poverty, growing up in a low-income neighborhood, you can still excel under the right circumstances. Here is the honorably discharged from the U.S. Air Force, and here is an achievement in the Air Force to become a non-commissioned officer, to become a sergeant under some of the more stricter rules, still being able to excel. And then moving on to the educational parameters, where even going to college to excel, to graduate with distinction, and to join the International Honor Society after graduation to continue your excellence. And then the last one over here is the departmental degree. And then here, it was the undergraduate, magna cum laude, even at the undergraduate level. So my goal was excellence, and to be able to demonstrate it over a period of time. Because see, this is the kid who wasn't gonna make it. He wasn't gonna make it. And I come into your organization and excel at every step. So this is to that counselor who said you wasn't gonna add up to nothing, because I didn't mop no floors nowhere. Love it. Did not mop any floors in my, well, I did have to wipe them at home, but other than that,
That gives us a little humility.
I didn't have to mop floors for a living. I had other people take care of that. It's good to be. Yep.
And life is beautiful.
Oh, life is beautiful.